Yo, what's poppin', bro?
What's going on?
Good to see you.
It is good to see you. I mean, obviously, this is like our first time kind of doing a real in-person podcast,
No doubt.
test run. And also you don't live here.
Yeah. No, I feel like I'm here enough, but every time I'm here, man, quick, like bang week, I'm out. And you know how fast New York City is. So, but I love it, man. I love it. And it's nice being in the office with the backdrop and seeing you. Obviously, we're going to get into how we know each other, but yeah, I can't complain. So where are you at right now? Like what's happening in your world?
What's happening in my world? Well, actually, why don't we take the step back and just like really talk about like the genesis maybe of this, and then we could talk about like what's going on in my world.
I got you.
Because like people don't know, like
for sure why we're doing
Cal.
this.
I'm Derek.
Yeah,
right?
and what we're into. Yeah,
and like I think that would be that would be some good context to kind of frame everything.
Yeah.
What I would say is first, obviously we met through the company that we're both at right now, or in the organization of.
For sure.
We met at Vayner Sports Pass, which is like an NFT project.
Yep.
And which is part of the whole kind of like Gary V world, right?
Yep.
And I think the thing right off the bat, we had like a good chemistry.
No doubt.
But I think what's always funny is like we both are people persons.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah. Enjoy relationships, enjoy people.
Right. But we also hit it off just on like, we're both into personal development. We're both into bettering our lives. We both love to read books. We both love sports. There's a lot of shit that we like bonded over.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was just funny that like, you're how old?
21.
21.
21.
You're 21. You're from Alberta, Canada. I am 38. I am from Long Island, New York, right?
Yep.
I'm married. I have kids.
I'm single, no kids.
Yeah, so we're like an odd couple of sorts.
Yeah.
But like, I think what was always special about our relationship was like, you are just starting out. I think that obviously I think the world of you, and I think you have a ton of talent. You're you're like the young rookie phenom,
Yeah.
And I'm like the trusty vet.
Yeah. And I think that dichotomy, and just over several meetings, like you providing your input on certain things and me coming at it from a different angle, the value that I got from some of those conversations that we've had was significant. And I think to your point, you being in a completely different stage of life kind of sets this up, because I come at it from one angle and you come at it from another, and we kind of net out, hey, this is actually where we're going. So yeah, I enjoyed sort of all our previous conversations, and this is kind of the context for why we've decided to do this, you being, the vet and me being the young rook, and us coming together. So I guess now is the time to introduce, what you're doing right now and how you got into that. But like, take me back. Where'd you start? Where were you at 21?
Where was I at 21?
Yeah, so I'm here right now. Where were you at 21?
That's a great question. Honestly, if we think about it from like the lens of, or the contrast between me and you,
yeah,
like I was not the rookie phenom.
You weren't at 21?
No, I was not. I was lost.
Okay.
I was lost when I was 21. I really didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with my life. But I've always been like creative. I've always been a writer.
Yep.
I went to college as a film communications, like with an emphasis
where'd
on
you go again?
film. University of Wisconsin, Badger.
Yeah.
And so I came out and my first thought was like, I want to write movies.
Okay.
And so I was like always writing, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I ended up in a family business, which is like the jewelry business. And the long story short there is like, I was there out of like comfort in some ways. And my whole family's in that business. And it allowed me to write on the side. And I was doing a lot of freelance writing. I was trying to be a screenwriter and I gained traction in some ways doing that. But for the most part, I was really kind of like stunted in that, in those years, in my 20s, and really lost, to just be like straight up. Like I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was really, like I had a lot of insecurities. A a lot of what I see from a lot of 20-year-olds, most 20-year-olds, it's like you go to college or, or some people don't, but like the ones that do, it's like you're supposed to pick a major and
you got to figure it out.
And then it's like go out into the real world and figure it out. But I think a lot of 20-year-olds, they get out and they're like thinking that they're supposed to have it all figured out right off the bat. And that was me.
And I think that's, I think that's starting to change in society, but that transition period coming out of university or high school, whether that be you don't go to university and again, the parents' pressures or just societal pressures of, hey, you got to have it figured out. You got to get that job. You got to do this. I think that, I'm seeing, at least in my peer group, a transition where that individual is like, hey, I want to do this for the next 2 years, but then I want to try this. And, I want to travel and I want to do so many things. And it's interesting because I'm sure that things were different, obviously, when you were 21 and you coming out of university. But I mean, I guess when you get into that story, my initial question is, reflecting back, if you had to give yourself one piece of advice from what you know now, at 21, what would you say?
Yeah, it's funny because, we're like 30 feet from Gary's office.
Very true.
But it's it's like very much a Gary thing where it's like you have so much time, and I remember feeling when I was 21, 22, 23, every single year, I just remember feeling like I'm so far behind. Like I see certain friends that are advancing in their careers or making this much money. And like, I still don't even know what the fuck to do. And I think like that perspective, that's why I really, respect and admire Gary, because it's true. And now I'm 38 and now I really believe that like I've got time, like I
definitely,
can, and like, obviously I've advanced in my career and I've definitely done some things. And, but I think when you're at that age, it's just really hard to have any perspective when you don't have experience yet. Right. So you try your best to just like, fake it and like really talk the talk, but like, how can you really know what you're getting yourself into? I mean, goes to an even larger conversation around like, and you know how I feel about this, which is like, I don't think high school and college curriculums do a good job of preparing you for what you're like getting into, like teach me the shit that I actually need once I get out in the real world and I get out there and it's like, okay, so like, taxes and mortgages and all that. I don't know any of this stuff.
And none of it was even brought up during, high school and university. And I think that's the beauty of this, right? Like as we continue this journey in terms of the podcast, like we want to educate people on those things that, again, maybe the high school, university curriculum in North America doesn't teach you. And I just think that like you made a point there that you felt behind at 21. And I think a point that I just want to nail in is that everyone's running their own race.
Right.
Like we're all on our own path. You're going to do what you're going to do. And I think that judging yourself compared to others is not the way to go about it. And I just want to, I preach that to, my peer group in terms of, hey, like, bro, you're doing amazing for what you want to do. You're doing amazing for where you're at and keep plugging away, keep doing what you want to do. Cause at the end of the day, like, you could be making all the amount of money in the world. You got to do what you want to do and you got to do what you love. So I think like for me, and just going off of what you said, as an ambitious young person, I think the thing that I lack the most, and I'm self-aware enough to admit this, patience, man. Like you get in somewhere, you get an opportunity, you come out of university, you come out of high school, whatever, and it's like you want to run a million miles an hour.
Absolutely.
And so that's something that I've struggled with internally is that, I want to make things happen tomorrow, but you're building, man. Everything can't happen tomorrow. And I think that, that's such an interesting conversation because the amount of people that I know and that definitely feel this way is significant. And I think that, everyone should have some sort of ambition in their life and some sort of goal that they want to achieve. But again, it doesn't have to happen tomorrow. Like you said, you have time. So that's really what's been on my mind lately in terms of, what you brought up.
It's funny that you say that just because like, man, that was one of my big things too back in the day. And like, to some degree it still is that impatience. Right. And I think part of the reason that we wanted to do this pod is like personal development to me, which by the way is like, it needs a full rebrand as a term. Agreed. Right? Like people don't fully like if you asked me 5 years ago, like, so personal development, I would be like, oh, so like some like boring seminar, like that you just like a bunch of people like wearing like, you know, ties and suits and and to me, but it's not, as I've kind of like really fell in love with personal development through like reading and nonfiction and podcasts and all these different things. It's really about like, how can I live a better life, right? How can I be happier? How can I have better mental health?
Better relationships.
How can I have better relationships? How can I do things that are fulfilling in terms of like my career? And, you know, again, like when I think about the impatience stuff, like there's stuff that I did 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and then like all the way up until now where like it didn't make sense at the time why I was doing things. So a lot of times I think, you know, this might just be me speaking, but it just feels like I would end up at places like very, you know, just like serendipitously.
Yeah, I agree.
Or just kind of like arbitrarily, just like, okay, here I am. I guess this is what I'm doing for the next for the rest of my life. But obviously that wasn't the case.
For sure.
And I just remember I have a buddy who hired me who basically when I decided, okay, like I can't go on in this family business. Like I have to kind of like make my own way and just take a chance. He gave me an opportunity as my buddy Jesse. And it was at a digital marketing company. And I remember I went there and I'm like, okay, I'm out in the real world, really like in the real world, like not like with my family business. I can't just come and go as I please. You know, and it was much healthier. And so I get into digital marketing. I'm there for a couple months. I fucking hate it. I'm like, this is terrible. This is not me. Like, I can't do this. So I'm like, all right, within this organization, like, I'm not going to do like the in the weeds digital marketing. Like, maybe what I want to do is like business development.
I got you. Yeah,
so I'm like, yo, let me try and do this. He gave me an opportunity to do some business development, sales, all that stuff. Terrible at that. Like just awful. Like
awful in terms of like your performance or awful you didn't like it?
Just like I hated it. And like that wasn't like my skill set. My skill set is much more from a creative standpoint. And so we got to this point at which it was like, it's just not working out. And my buddy Jesse, who was basically the boss, like had to let me go, which was whatever. At the time I was like, you know, very upset about it. Whatever.
For sure. I can imagine.
And what he said to me was like, you know, and I think back to this a lot, which is like, this is a stepping stone. Like, use this as a stepping stone to the next thing. And, you know, at the time, like, I didn't really like understand it as much, or I understood, but like, I was like, okay, you know, you just basically like fired me. But as my career has gone along, I've really taken that to heart. And it's like, okay, I learned something here, even though I hated it. Now I actually have a better understanding of digital marketing and of sales and of business development. And I really was able to take that and leverage it to my next thing. And then as I've kind of gone through, and I have such a mishmash of like experience in all, I've done startup work, I've done like freelance stuff, I'm doing Web3 things, I wrote children's book, all these things that had varying degrees of success and like whatever. And now I'm here in this position at 1:37 p.m. I'm the creative director. And honestly, I feel like it has been a long and winding road.
But everything led to this.
In some way. And so, you know, I'm grateful for just having that experience, just to know, okay, that's not what I was like wanted to do. That wasn't what was in the cards for me. But it was a great learning experience, and it really just set me forth on this path of you know, really finding out what I should be doing and honestly just more so about like just life and like how life works.
I mean, I think that's super interesting though, because again, like you coming out of university, that's like a 20-year journey to get to where you are now. And all those hodgepodge of things and different experiences that you had, I'm sure have built your skill set to, you know, be the creative director of 137 and actually excel in that role. And I'm sure, you know, that's what you want to be doing, because obviously you're a very creative guy. And I know that from working with you, but I mean, how would you say that, like, what was that one, I guess, Eureka moment that you're like, you know, all of these things that I've done, even though I didn't want to do them, actually provided me value because now I'm where I want to be potentially, or maybe not yet, but you're still kind of on that journey. I think that's super interesting. Like, to speak to that a little bit more.
Yeah. What I would say is, like, right after I got laid off was when I took like my first real leap of faith.
So this is
when I ended up starting my startup business, right?
Yeah.
Ball at the time, like managing 5 different teams. It was really the only thing I cared about at that brief moment in time. I love sports, but I also just loved fantasy football. And I was managing the CEO's team and like all these things. And I was just thinking about it all the time.
Yeah.
And I just thought there was a concept there. And so I ended up like having this this kind of like chance meeting with somebody in one of the leagues that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And the long story short is I ended up with one of my close friends and this guy that I met starting this startup business that was all about a professional fantasy football league built on blockchain. This was like early, like before anybody even like really
was talking about
it was
blockchain.
Like in the beginning, so it was way too early.
Yeah.
The funny part about it is I actually pitched it to Gary in this office like 4 years ago. He passed on it.
2018?
2018, around 2018 or so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think while I was in that business, I really like decided, okay, I'm a co-founder now, right? This is like startup world, brand new to me. And I just remember like we started to build out like different parts of the business, the marketing side, the finance side, the product side, you know, all of these different aspects. And it just gave me this exposure to all the different sides and how, when we started hiring different people, really learning about like how people operate in those positions and like just absorbing the information. And I remember thinking like, you know, at the time, like, this is great. Like now I'm learning, I'm really kind of getting a sense of things that I just didn't know. And I'm going to use this stuff. And I think,
take it.
Yeah. And around that time is when I also, I would say before that, and I read a book that somebody put me onto, which is one of your favorite books I know, which is Think and Grow Rich.
Love that book. Yeah, definitely.
And that was one of those like real eureka moments for me. And out of that, I just started like feeling like, okay, you know that expression, like the more you know, the more you the more you know you don't know, right? And then all of a sudden I was on this quest for just like, I want to learn as much from books and from podcasts and from all these things. I just want to apply them and pick and choose what I can take and make part of like my arsenal to make me a more well-rounded individual.
Yeah.
And so, over the last couple of years, like that's really been my approaches. And the funny thing is now I'm 38 and I'm in this role and like, look, I still wake up and I'm just like, I feel like, you know, the kid in the dad's clothing, with the suitcase going to work. Like, who's going to find out that like, I really, you know, like maybe I'm not fit for this role. Like I'm not the guy, and like, you know, but like, and then you always have to give yourself the pep talk. Like, no, you got this. Like,
self-talk.
And so it's constantly this internal battle of like, you know, giving yourself the confidence and the motivation, and you know what, you have experience, like you've done this before, and you start to realize it's really all about relationships and like simple things that really help you advance in your career.
Yeah. And I mean, as you talk about that, like I'm sitting here, right? And so I'm 21, as we mentioned, and you're having this internal battle with yourself and self-talk, and you're like, yes, I've had these experiences. Whereas for someone like me, I haven't had these experiences. I'm coming in fresh off the boat, like new to the game, new to the business world. I've always I've loved entrepreneurship and just business. It's kind of been so I'm an athlete. I played soccer as a kid growing up, other sports, and you know that was my number one. But number two was
a great athlete, by the way.
I appreciate that. I mean,
real top tier footy.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit, but yeah, no, I mean, man, like a story that comes to mind for me was, I remember I was living in Dubai at the time, and I probably spent grade 6 to 8 in Dubai. And I remember when I wasn't playing sport, I was like, shit, like how do I make money? How do I learn things that, like, you know, are such as like arbitrage. Like I was looking these words up, like what is arbitrage?
Right.
And I was like, okay, like selling things, buying things for cheaper and selling them for more expensive in a different market. So what I then did was I would get money from my parents and I would go to the grocery store, which was right by our school, every day before school.
Yeah.
And I would buy, you know, the hottest candy, like the chocolate bars, whatever. And legit, I never went to school with any books or anything in my backpack. I would go with a bag full of candy.
Yeah.
And what I would do is I ended up being the school dealer.
Yeah.
So legit, man, I would like, you know, everyone knew my phone number and was like, oh, you got any like Sour Patch Kids today? And that candy, we didn't have that candy to buy. I'm forgetting like what the specific thing was. Yeah. But so I'd be like, yeah, I got like, you know, I got grape, I got
you were flipping
raspberry,
candy, yeah.
Flipping candy, man, and making like, I swear I was making like a few $100 a month and I'm like, this is at 12.
Yeah.
Like this is crazy. And so I was just like, I was less so paying attention to, you know, the math class and the English class and more so honing in on building those relationships with my clients, consumers, and you know, making money at it. And so I think like for me, it's always been one of those things where even though I'm only 21, I have like the relevant experiences and, you know, just I to your point, like I felt like I've been a lifelong learner in the years that I've been alive. Obviously, you know, less than you, but for me, I think that growing up and my past living in, you know, 6 different places and getting to experience all sorts of different cultures has just broadened my horizons and perspective on life and being able to, you know, I think for me, the biggest thing is every couple of years we would move and I had to restart. I had to reinvent myself. So I feel like that's provided me a lot of insight into who I am as a human being and just allowed me to excel in, you know, whether that be sport, whether that be business, whether that be my professional world, personal with relationships. And I think that, you know, I'm super grateful for my family and the way that I grew up, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. But I think that's, you know, why I am where I am today, even though, you know, I'm only 21. I feel like I do have some sort of experience. And I think that, you know, I'll say to people who maybe don't, who are just starting out, that it'll come with time. Like, man, like there's so travel, do what you can while like, I don't have a wife, I don't have kids. Like I can go to Amsterdam and see the culture tomorrow if I want, if I have the financial means to do so. And I think that, you know, life's what you make it, man.
I know,
like,
but what I would say is like, first off, that the fact that you are doing that is like a natural skill that has set you up in such a big way. And like, you know, when you hear the stories of a lot of these successful entrepreneurs, they have similar stories, right? Like Gary wasn't a great student, right?
For sure.
Because he was like business minded from the jump. You're like about Michael Rubin, like where he started like this. And like these certain things, it's funny, like I'm jealous of the fact that you moved from place to place. Because I always think about it like this. I grew up like in a pretty comfortable, like good, very nice town, like a very good childhood.
On Long Island?
On Long Island, middle upper class.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would just say it like this, like it set me back. Like it did not, like if I had grown up in a tougher environment where like I was hungrier, like right out of the gate, I feel like that's why you are as advanced as you are at an early age, is because you had to reinvent yourself and do those sorts of things.
But I think that goes to like, you know, they say dreams go dead in the comfort zone. Like it's one of those things where comfortability is a drug, like in terms of being in that comfort zone and never wanting to take that leap and in whatever facet of life that is. Being uncomfortable is one of the things needed in personal development and for growth. And obviously through your different working experiences, I'm sure you were uncomfortable several times and still probably are to this day. And I think that that's such a benefit to, you know, I think where you're at for sure, but just like something that I'm grateful for is that I actually enjoy that uncomfortability and having to adapt and always, you know, change, you know, what I've got going on just because of that comfort zone aspect.
Well, you read about it where it's like the people that are the most successful, they make that part of the process like the thing that they end up enjoying, right? Like that's what the thing is. But by the way, I will say one other thing, which is like, I think there was a point at which, you know, maybe late 20s, early 30s, where I finally had this realization where like nobody's going to just give me the thing that
no
I
one
want.
owes you
Like
anything,
I
and-
can't, nobody owes me anything. Like I'm going to have to just fight for it myself. Like
care about yourself.
I'm
the
going
most,
to
yeah.
have to like go grab the thing that I want, like, and just go for it. Like
I love
I had this moment of clarity, and that honestly, I think that's like this thing right now where it's really tough, especially for kids in their 20s who are entering the workforce in one of the worst type of climates,
For sure.
with inflation,
For sure.
and with like coming out of the pandemic where like they've been working remotely. And I mean, man, like for your mental health of just waking up and going over
Straight
to
to the
a desk
desk.
and then not getting outside.
No physical human
Yeah,
interaction.
it's crazy. I sympathize for that, but like, for me, I'll tell you one other very funny thing is like, as I've kind of progressed, like, you have this thing that's always like in the back of your mind where I was joking around about this the other day.
Okay.
Basically, like, I'm still like a child in this way where I think everybody's older than me. I'm the oldest person on this team, pretty much. Maybe there's one person older than me of like 30 something employees. Yeah. And I get in a room and I'm like, there's somebody as like a position of power, and I'm like, oh man, like that. And it's like that person's like 10 years young. I find out the person's 10 years young. I'm like, oh, I'm not scared of that person. I'm so intimidated still. And I don't know. I guess it's just one of these things where you're either going to advance yourself and really get on that tip of like learning and being self-aware that, maybe like I come from this environment and I have to really teach myself that, to get to the place that I want to be, or you're somebody like yourself that's just like naturally has that thing because of the environment that you come from.
Yeah, no. And I mean, for me, I really want to, push that in the sense that like we, as much as there's, all these global issues going on, and we just came out of the pandemic, and inflation's crazy, and everything's happening overseas, and there's so much happening. But I do believe that we are in the age of opportunity, in the sense that, man, like with the internet, with the you're one email away from everyone in the world, which is crazy. And I think that just self-awareness, man, it's such a big trait. We both know, but I think that's something that I really am pushing to my peers and want to push on this, is that, just know who you are and know what you like. And again, as much as you feel comfortable, step out of that comfort zone. That brings me to actually a question though, in terms of what you said. What's like for you, what motivation, intrinsic motivate? Because at the end of the day, like you talk about that, and I'm thinking like you have to be drilling that in yourself, and you have to want it. Like your motivation has to be in the right place for you to actually go and explore all these curiosities that you have. So for you, like, what would you say that your motivation is?
My motivation, I would say, it's a couple things. One is like, I want to be fulfilled creatively. And so like what that means to me is like producing, creating work that's memorable. Like that's not just like, okay, I got to come in and do my job and just check the boxes and get this thing out. And, like I want to produce big things. I want to make content that, people care about, that makes them laugh, that elicits like emotions. Like that motivates me. I think I'm inspired by so much out there that I almost want to like have a similar impact in a way where like I could, like this being a great example. Like I would hope that if we did this and it became something that could gain some traction, that it could just like resonate with people, and that it could be something that they relate to and feel like, okay, I'm not just alone on an island with these thoughts. Like there are other people out there that have the same thoughts. And that to me would be like great. The other thing obviously that motivates me is, I have family, I have a kid, I have kids, 2 kids. And like, so a big motivation is just giving them the life that I envision. Yeah. And then I would say the last thing is just like being happy. That really motivates me. Like And so I'm always selfishly in a lot of ways doing the things that I need to do that make me happy, whether that is like I play basketball once a week.
Wednesday
that's a big,
night.
And that's like, I need that, you know, or it's like having time with my wife, like away from my kids and like saying like to my in-laws, take the kids, like that will make me, and then having time with my kids and like being able to like, just, you know, I got this job and it's taken time away from my kids. It's actually, that's one of the kind of downsides of taking this job is now I'm commuting into the city. I was working remotely before. I could just get home. And so now I have a couple of days where I get home and they're already asleep, and that hurts, you know, and that's tough, man. Finding that balance between
I love that you touched on that.
Finding that balance between being like, and you know, this might be a ways away for you, but like, I was thinking about this the other day. It is really hard to be a good parent and a good like worker, like a good employee. Like the person that is doing both of those great, like show me that person. Cause like, it's impossible. It's so hard. And it's the thing that is constantly, you know, I'm trying to juggle. So motivated by a lot of things, but I'd be interested to know what you're motivated by.
Yeah, so I was in Toronto this past weekend, and my buddy from the Dubai days, we were just sitting down eating dinner, catching up, and he was like, man, like, you know, you seem like you got a good head on your shoulders. It's been 10 years since I've seen you. Good to see you're doing well. But like, I have a question for you. And I'm like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, why do you wake up every morning? Like, what motivates you? What makes you happy? And I legit, like, we were just shooting the shit. And I was like, fuck, like, I had to think about it. I'm like, give me like a few minutes, man. Like, let me actually dive into what makes me happy and makes me wake up every morning. And I think number one, like you touched on it, obviously family and relationships. I think that for me, and what I think about a lot is that at the end of the day, when I'm older, I want to look back and be like, hey, there were this many people in my life that meant something to me, and I hope I meant something to them and brought them either happiness or value in whatever way that was. And so building those relationships day in, day out motivates the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
And that's family and friends.
Can I just add one thing to that?
Yeah.
I forgot that one too.
Yeah.
Like, I feel that way also. Like, I want to have as many meaningful like connections with people. Let me just retract.
Throw that in there.
Let me throw that in there.
You're 21. I'm throwing an answer that you forgot, bro.
I love that. Okay, go on.
No, that's funny as shit. So that's probably the biggest thing. And then for me, I think, and you touched on it, so I'm gonna take this a little bit from you, but building something that is impactful and is bigger than just myself, in the sense that I love what I'm doing right now, but I also love just thinking about where the world is going and the impact that I can make on whether that be individuals my age or people in, you know, hometown, in New York, across the world, man. I just want to be, you know, the biggest impact I can be, positive impact on the world. And at the end of the day, like, and I think this word is used a lot, and I've had a lot of people say this to me recently, but it's like, yo, like, you got to reach your potential. And I think that's such an arbitrary thing. Like, what the fuck is your, who the fuck knows their potential? And I think it's all what you make it, right? Like for me, as long as I, you know, have a good mindset and wake up every day fucking excited to do what I'm doing. And the day I don't, I'm going to make a change. Like, I think that's what I find so funny about, you know, the mundane life that is that day-to-day corporate job that so many people live through, is that, you know, they wake up and they go through the motion. It's like, fuck, why are you doing that?
I know.
Like at the end of the day.
But I've been stuck in those situations before, and it's so, like I can relate to that.
So yeah, I'm curious then, like, what is it, man? Like what, like is it that you're not educated? Like, is it that you're not educated? Is it stability? Is it safety? Like what?
It's a little bit of that. Yeah. It's a lot of the uncertainty of the unknown.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
It's this thing like, okay, if I move on, then like I have to have something I have to have something lined up, because otherwise I might not have money coming through. I think there's that, especially if you have a family that
sure.
you're depending on.
I'm sympathetic. Yeah.
I was in that situation, you know, like early on, and it was one of these things where it was just this mental hurdle for me, where I was just like, I think I would always say this to my girlfriend, who's now my wife at the time, where it was just like, all right, so then what? I don't even know what to do. What am I supposed to do? Like, I don't know what I want to choose as a career, and like to go on and make a big decision. And her feedback to me, because she's much smarter than I am, was always just like, go do anything. Like, just, you can't do this thing. Like, go out and do anything. And like, I don't know if that was the best piece of advice, but like she was right in the sense that where I was at was not where like I was going to grow at all. Yeah. And I think you were talking about like, you got to reach your full potential. And it's like, what does that even mean? Yeah. And like, I saw somebody talk about this the other day, where like once they stopped putting that pressure on themselves, and they were like, you know what? Like, I don't need necessarily to achieve greatness. Like I can be really happy just living like a normal life. And like, honestly, for me, I think there was definitely a point in time where I was like, if I don't achieve greatness, then my life is a failure.
Okay.
And like, I am ambitious and I do want to achieve things in my life. Yeah. But I think it is this societal thing where you are like, you have to reach your full potential. And like, you feel this like pressure, this internal pressure of like, I'm not doing enough. I'm not good enough. I haven't made it. And I think that's the thing where, and then you see these people that you know, admire and that achieve greatness. And you're like, if I'm not that, then like, I am not a successful person in my life. And a lot of times I'm not happy.
I actually wanted to ask you, like, what's a bad habit right now that you have that you're working through? And if you don't have one off the top of your head, like,
no, but that's a good question. The reason I go like this is because I have so many bad habits. Like, I have a ton of bad habits. You know, if you ask my wife, she would say there's a lot of bad habits going on. And I also want to come back to what you were just talking about, because maybe I'll start there and then I'll get to the bad habit. The thing that you're talking about of like the minutia of like feeling like you're super busy, but like it all comes down to the relationships. Just on like a serious tip right now, you know, I lost my father like a couple of years ago to cancer. I recently lost my grandmother. Just she lived a full life, so it was a little bit different, right? And it's one of those things that puts things in perspective, where you realize, like, at the end of the day, this thing that you're worrying about at work, like when you get to the end of your life, nobody is like thinking back to that thing. All they're thinking about is like the relationships, the love, you know, like the connections 100%. That have been made. And that's where it's like, I always get lost in that type of like work sauce of just like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed out. And then I need to take the step back and just be like, that's not what it's about. Like, obviously you get caught up in that stuff, but like at the end of the day, does it really matter?
Yeah. I mean,
doesn't really matter.
Don't you find though that like let's say in the work life, like anything that you're worrying about today or this week doesn't fucking matter next week, man. And so it's one of those things where like, I feel like especially in North America, just like everyone's worried about, school or work or that job or whatever it is. And that's actually a difference I found, like, just to get broad, but that's a difference I found in the European culture is that, man, like, even I was there this summer and no one gives a fuck about work or they just, bro, everyone's singing in the coffee shop and they're having a good time with their family.
What's up with that,
it's
bro?
Good food, good drink, like great wine, and just like those relationships that they fucking love. And that's all it's about. At the end of the day, like they don't take work home. I feel like a lot of us here take work home and stress about things. And there it's like,
so you're saying their calendar isn't full of just back-to-back meetings and calls and just like literally just an overload of just constant
we're living in the information age, man. That's what it is.
Bro, it drives me crazy. To go back to the bad habits.
Yeah. I want to hear that.
I know like somebody would be like, okay, but he didn't answer that question.
Yeah, no, I want to hear that.
My bad habits I have a couple bad habits, I would say. One is I have a bad, my diet isn't the best. Like I'm kind of skinny, you know what I mean? Like I've always been skinny, but like I'm a late night snacker. That's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
It's probably because
what's your go-to snack?
I have a sweet tooth. So like, I honestly, it's bad. It's like sweet, salty, sweet, salt. I'll like eat pretzels. I'll eat cookies. I'll eat ice cream. It's bad.
Yeah,
I won't eat all day, and then I'll eat dinner, and I'll just like snack.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably the one of my. That's definitely a habit that. Oh, I'll give you one more, and this has been like a habit I've had forever, and it's. Oh man, this one really hurts me because I'll tell you why. Because I bite my nails, right? And it's like a nerve thing, right? And and it's funny enough, and I have this in my pocket. My thing to kind of counteract that is I steal these little pop-it things from
I used to see you do that
kids,
in the meetings,
right?
Yeah.
I pop these guys to like prevent myself from biting my nails, but I still like do it. And now, this is like a real good lesson, but like my kids now like are biting their nails
just because they've seen you,
because they saw me do it, and I'm like, oh man, what did I do? Like, how can I? And I think that's kind of like it's kind of stopped me in a way from doing it, but like it's one of those nervous habits that like the stress and the anxiety, I don't even realize it as I'm doing it. So I would say let's start with those first two habits, and I'll tell you about more bad habits down the line.
I feel like this will be like a pretty consistent segment in terms of what bad habit are you working on this week, bro? Like, because that's definitely very relatable, and I'm curious too to hear like, I know this isn't going out, but I want to see in the comments what bad habits those individuals got.
What bad habits do you have?
Exactly.
Tell us.
And what are you doing to make a change?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I feel like the biting the nails is probably a pretty common one.
Yeah.
Definitely. And
you got any? What would you say is your
right now?
Yeah, right now, a bad habit you're trying to work through.
Sleep, man.
Sleep.
I'm so like.
You go to sleep late.
Don't sleep in it. Like I sleep probably 5 hours a night. Like and that I feel like for me right now I'm in a spot where. I don't know if it's probably the naivety, however you want, naivety, that I am young and invincible. Yeah. And so I feel like, when you feel invincible, you feel like, oh, fucking my health doesn't matter. I'll be fine. I can go out and have a good time and be up at 7 a.m. for work the next morning and not drink enough water and all that shit. And so, when I was playing high level sport, I obviously, every morning I woke up, meditated, stretched, drank, 2 glasses of water before I even did anything else, which I think is the most important thing to start your day, by the way.
Interesting.
So no, legit, like in terms of the health benefits, and this like I could I'll send you the links of like a few articles I've read.
Is this what you're putting me onto? Is 2 glasses of water?
No, but it'll be one of the things. This put you on right here. Clip this.
Clip it.
Legit, man. If you start your morning, and it's got to be room temperature, it cannot be cold, cannot be hot. Every day before you do anything else, before you consume anything else, 2 glasses of water, it starts to get your digestive system going because, again, once you drink 2 room temperature glasses, your body's awake. It actually does more for you than coffee does.
2 full glasses of water? I don't even think I could.
You don't think you could do that? You're not thirsty when you wake up in the morning?
I'm like a little bit.
I mean, let's start with fucking one. Like we don't need
I drink
hit the fences.
I drink the full coffee when I wake up in the morning, which I know is not great.
No, but I shit you not. Like in terms of you want to wake up, like you're drinking the coffee for the functionality, probably. I do like the taste of coffee, but you're not supposed to have coffee within the first hour and a half of you waking up. It doesn't have the same effect. And 2 glasses of water to
That's
wake
another
up
bad habit. Okay, yeah,
does
on.
more for you than any coffee would in terms of your mental state and you being awake.
Yeah.
So legit, if I could put anyone on to something, it'd be the first thing you do when you wake up. 2 glasses, got to be room temperature because cold shocks the system.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I would say. But
interesting. Can I ask you a separate question?
Yeah.
Do you take cold showers in the morning? Because I hear that's it's not that I hear. I know that a lot of people just like say that a cold shower is like the best thing that you could do, and like that like whatever stimulates your entire body or like wakes you up. You ever do one of those?
I don't take them in the morning. The only time I'll take a cold shower is after a workout. But I'm a sauna guy. Sauna to me is like the third best
cold shower though after a workout is like pretty easy to do. You're like your whole body is hot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure. I couldn't do that.
I'm gonna put you onto something morning routine wise, okay?
Yeah.
You probably already do it. Make your bed. Like I know everybody says that. Everybody says that. Like ever since I started making my bed.
I actually don't.
You don't?
No.
Ever since I started making my bed, it's just one of those things where it's like I accomplished something. Like even though it's like a very
mundane task.
Yeah, mundane task. Every single day, make my bed. This is not like saying some sort of revolutionary thing because there's so many people that say it. Yeah, I think that's something I would say you should do because otherwise you just feel a little bit scattered. I don't know. Also, like I don't love the idea of just getting into a bed. I feel like maybe that speaks more to the fact that you're like young and like, like just out of college, uni, as you would say, like, and you're kind of like still in that frat mode.
Yeah. I don't know if I was ever in that like frat mode, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah. I like that. I think I'll take that away from this. I'll go make my bed tomorrow.
Do it.
I will.
Do it. Tell me how you feel afterwards.
I'm on a couch, so I'll make the couch.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I like that. I think that as we go along, I want that to be a segment of the show in terms of like what bad habits we're working on. And next week, man, I want to hear your experience. You better take 2 glasses of water tomorrow morning and let me know, and I'll make the couch tomorrow morning.
I like this thing that we're getting into right now of like I'm pulling this up.
No, I got you.
Of the different things that we want to kind of talk about. I know we kind of skipped over some stuff. Do we want to get into some of those topics or tell me what you're feeling right now in terms of our conversation?
I think we got to touch on the World Cup.
Okay. So let's do it. Let's pause on all of the personal development stuff and just talk World Cup. And
it's culturally relevant right now.
It's very culturally relevant. And give me your first kind of take on it.
Yeah. So,
and let people know about where your background as it relates to it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed this World Cup.
Yeah.
There were a lot of questions going in terms of, some of the, it obviously being in the winter is new. Obviously they just outlawed the alcohol like a week before the tournament even started. That was crazy. People were like, this is going to be a shitty World Cup.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I played, uni. I played for FC Edmonton, which is the pro team where I'm from, Edmonton. And yeah, I mean, Canada, I'm from Canada, obviously. Canada being in the World Cup for the first time in 36 years, fucking crazy, man.
Yeah.
I think that, and someone was mentioning this to me, but the fact that it's nations competing for, one prize, what else is like this?
There's nothing like it.
You got okay, someone mentioned the World Baseball Classic or the Olympics, but like it's not the same. And so, bro, how has it been here? Like
I mean, I tell people this all the time. I'm a diehard sports fan. I love basketball, professional basketball. I'm a diehard Knicks fan. I love watching football, fantasy football. I love the Mets. Don't really love baseball, like watching it so much. The championships of all of those sports, they're okay. To me, there is no, and I like, in all fairness, I don't watch a ton of like the what's it called, like EPL, like all these club football, proper football. But to me, there's nothing better than the World Cup.
I would agree.
And it's because how high the stakes are. Like
every 4 years.
Every 4 years, and like in so many different ways. Like what scenario are you going to watch like France play against like England? And it's just this like historical battle. And I was telling you about this the other day. This to me is like why I love World Cup in like in an example. It's like I'm flying home the other day from Miami. Like we were at some event. South Korea is playing against, I think it was Portugal, and they needed to win to advance to the knockout round. Yep. They're in like they're in like extra time.
90th plus 7 or something.
Yeah. And like I forget what the guy's name is, right? But they score a goal and it's just pandemonium. They go to the sidelines. It's just these Korean like people that are just hysterically crying out of like
fans.
Happiness. And it's just, they're so like ecstatic and it's just like, oh my God. And then they're like, well, so what this means now is that Uruguay is now not going to advance unless they, score another goal. So let's now go to Uruguay versus who were they playing?
They're playing
like Cameroon or like one of the
South Korea, Portugal, and Uruguay was playing.
It was an African.
I want to say it was Ghana.
Yeah, maybe Ghana. I don't know what it was. So let's go to that game, and then it's just panic, and they show.
Yeah, they're trying. They need one more goal because it's the goal differential.
Yeah,
so they're throwing people forward, and they see the other game on the
game ends. They need a goal, right? Yeah. And Suarez is on the side, like he's like on the verge of tears. Like it's his last World Cup, and there's like some kind of like suspect calls by the refs,
for sure.
And literally, they get a couple opportunities, they don't work out. And then the game ends and they are just like, they can't be consoled. A few of the players on the team chase the refs off the field and are like trying to like attack them. And it's just like, wow, this is amazing. And then it's like, okay, now back to the, what's it called? The South Korea.
Yeah.
And they're watching the game.
Yeah. It's going back and forth.
Right?
Yeah.
And then it's just like, pure joy, and they're just celebrating, and they have the flag, and I'm like, yo, what scenario in sports
nothing
do
like
you see this?
Nothing like it,
right?
There's
like,
nothing.
And I was telling you the other day too, like Saudi Arabia beats Argentina, and like the guy, what's his name, MBS.
Oh yeah.
That guy, is like getting Rolls Royce like Phantoms for everybody on the team. I mean, if that team loses all of their matches and they go back to Saudi Arabia, like that's a dicey situation. That's how high the stakes are,
Yeah. No, and I even like me personally, I remember. So it's Canada first time, 36 years.
Yeah.
We went out to watch every game, and they're early in the morning. We're a few hours behind East Coast. And man, I remember, that first game against Belgium, who's ranked second in the FIFA World Rankings.
Yeah.
And first 10 minutes, Canada are fucking playing them off the park. And we're all in this bar and everyone is freaking out. Like, there's no way. Canada, small nation, we're going to beat Belgium. And so we get the penalty. Who steps up? Edmonton boy, Alphonso Davies. So like, it's not even like, he's from somewhere else in Canada. Legit, the guy went to school across from this bar, for example. And bro, so everyone's in there like, yo, this is Edmonton guy. We're going to be put on the map. This is fucking crazy. Yeah. And just like, obviously he missed the penalty and the disappointment. He ended up scoring Canada's first goal against Croatia in the World Cup ever, which is crazy. But yeah, man, I mean, just to your point, the stakes, the emotion, I feel like I've never seen the nation get behind something like that. Like, we're North America. It's not fucking proper football nations. Yeah. But, bro, the amount of like, the spirit around Team Canada in Edmonton specifically, but across all of Canada was crazy, man. I've never, even for the Olympics, like it's normally legit, but it wasn't the same as the World Cup.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that I always kind of find just intriguing and I love so much is like, I don't really know so much about like Uruguay or like Cameroon or like even like, you could watch like a match where it's between, I don't know, give me like two random like countries. Poland is playing like Serbia or like, Ghana or whatever. And just watching the mannerisms of how they actually like interact with each other. You're like, okay, I don't know a lot about this country and the people there, but like, I could kind of, there's some takeaways in terms of like the cultural aspects of how they each kind of celebrate, how they each kind of show emotion, how they each, my favorite thing, which a lot of people hate, but like when they get hurt and they like do the theatrics of rolling around, it's hilarious.
And teams do that, like the Brazilian players, you saw those dances, like those guys, like just, the cultural aspects of the game is so cool to see. And I think too, man, like the one thing that's different from this to like club proper football, everyone gives way more passionate about their country than the fucking club. Yeah. So bro, just the passion that you see, these guys going every fucking tackle. They're like, the guys are like calf cramps, 97th minute, and giving everything. Whereas for the club, they'll never do that.
Every one of these guys, when they get knocked out, whether if you're Neymar or like we were talking about Suarez, or it's
crying, man.
Yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo, it's just tears. Like it's 4 years. Like it's. I was thinking about the other day. It's like USA England, right? Which is. Again, it's just like the history there. Like, there's so much like that tension, and it's like, because like the Revolutionary War, like we have like a real rivalry with these guys. Obviously, things are much better now.
Did you see all the memes? Like it's football versus soccer. Whoever wins, we're calling it that. You saw that? Yeah. I thought that was funny, but I mean, you 100%, and I think too, like everyone that I've talked to who's actually like attended the World Cup. I know we're going to touch on this, but. Because 2026, it's coming to the US, Canada, and Mexico. And obviously, the players travel like from Mexico City. They're going to have to come East Coast, West Coast. Like it's not going to be the same as this year in Qatar. To the people I've talked to who have went, the proximity. Yeah. I'm pretty sure all the stadiums, the 8 stadiums that they've been playing at are all within like 120 kilometers of each other. Yeah. So it's very close. And so everyone like, just like the World Cup village is crazy apparently, whereas like in 2026 it'll be different, but I feel like we'll have a chance to take it in being in North America. I'm sure there'll be some crazy games in New York.
I cannot wait for that, and that's honestly why I'm just sad right now, because it's like I can't wait.
We gotta wait 4 years.
I can't wait for the game.
It'll fly, but
So we're going to kind of just go through a couple of these quick kind of hitting things, because I think a big part of this outside of the personal development is like, and this kind of maybe ties in a way, is like putting each other onto things and kind of going through some of the topics that we have here. So I'll start from the top, right? What is the top podcast episode or show that you've listened to recently?
Yeah. So, I mean,
let's do it. Let's see if we could get through them in a relatively.
You want to do like just like rapid fire?
Yeah, not rapid fire, but like kind of quick in a way.
I mean, the pod that I actually listened to the most recently that has still stuck with me, and you actually put me onto this a while ago, and then I was on the plane and I only had like a couple podcasts downloaded. Okay. And it was the Tim Ferriss Biology one. Yeah. Because I didn't finish it, and so I was just like, oh, I only have like 3 things downloaded. One of them was maybe Joe Rogan podcast that I was like, hey, I can listen to this anytime. Another one was the biology conversation, and I was just like, let me finish this. So that's stuck with me. I mean, I'd love for you to like talk more on your, like, I know is Tim Ferriss not your favorite pod?
I mean, that's my favorite pod.
Is that what you were going to say?
No, well, so the episode that I listened to most recently, or it wasn't the most recent one, but the one that stuck with me was he did one with this guy, J Cal. I can't even pronounce the guy's last name. And it was just an amazing interview. This guy has like a crazy story of like just coming from New York and how he, from Brooklyn, and how he like became an entrepreneur and became very successful. But I love that podcast episode so much. And I sent it to a bunch of people, like some of my colleagues. And then it put me onto his podcast, which is called the All In Podcast.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, that he does with like Chamath and this guy David Sachs and this guy Friedberg, and they're like these 4 just like really successful entrepreneur business people, and that's a really fascinating podcast that I put you onto because I started listening to, And the episode, I listened to a couple of them, but the first one I listened to was they basically broke down everything with SBF and the whole FTX scandal.
Okay.
And I didn't really
broke it down from what perspective?
Like just exactly what happened and their whole perspective on it. And it was one of these things where I really just did not understand what had happened until I had listened to that. So that was great. They also interviewed the CEO of Coinbase, something Armstrong. I forget what his name is. Something
Stuart.
Brian Armstrong.
Brian Armstrong.
Is that it?
Yeah.
That might be wrong. But whatever the case,
I'm not sure. Yeah.
He was like in communication with SBF while everything was going down, and it was like a really candid look into like from the perspective of somebody who has like essentially like a competitive business to him.
For sure. Yeah.
But that like saw him as kind of like a contemporary.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed. Yeah. And that was like a really fascinating one. I'll send that one to you.
Yeah. No, we'll link it in the show notes too. So how about top show? What show?
Top show I just finished. And you know what I'm going to say is White Lotus.
Me too, man.
What episode are you up to?
Man, I just started. I finished like the first like 2 or 3. Everyone's been like, yo, you got to watch White Lotus. And I don't have HBO in Canada.
Yeah.
So I've been like trying to grind to get it. And someone hooked me up with like their Crave TV password or something. I was able to watch on there. So that's one thing.
Top 2 or 3 of season 1 or season 2?
1.
Oh, wow. So
yeah, like I just started. Like,
holy cow.
Yeah. So I mean,
awesome.
the first couple episodes, I'm intrigued. I definitely looks fucking legit. What's your
my guy
feelings?
Tyler, who's probably like right behind me.
No,
he's not there. He just finished season 1. Like I put him on and I was you gotta watch it, and he blazed through it and he loved it. It's just an amazing show and it's really interesting. Like I'm not gonna, no spoilers, whatever, but it's just it's one of these things where you watch it and you're constantly feeling like this anxiety and this, it's like a dark comedy, but it's also like very much, they do a really great job in terms of like character development and also these different kind of storylines that intersect and weave in and out of each other. So I can't wait to talk to you about it once you're finished.
We'll definitely have to touch on it more, and I'll keep watching it. And then, so what about a book?
A book, okay. I read a couple books kind of at the same time, but the book that's like I've been reading a lot is a book called The Untethered Soul. And
never heard of it.
I forget who it's by, but it's very interesting. And I would say the main kind of like takeaway from it, or the main thing that I feel like you would vibe with, is it's a lot about like how you have thoughts, you know, and you have this internal dialogue constantly in your mind, right? Like that you're talking to basically. And you sometimes you listen to it and you're like, that's me. That's that conversation I'm having is me. And a lot of times it's like you think those thoughts are the right thoughts. You listen to those thoughts and it's like if you took that thing out of your head, you would be like, that's a crazy person.
I got you.
Like, so it's about being able to like observe how you have those thoughts and not actually like react to them in a way where it's like kind of disassociating yourself with your thoughts. And like, as I'm reading it, I'm like, holy shit, like this is crazy. Like, it's true. I'm constantly having this dialogue in my mind, like where it's like I'm saying something or something's saying something to me and I'm like saying something back to it. And I don't know. It's next level.
Who's it by?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I'll find that out.
Untethered Soul.
Untethered Soul. What about you? What book?
Again, this is one we talked about before too, that I because it's in my backpack and I've been traveling and I'm like, let me repick this up. Sovereign Individual. Yeah. And so that one is about adapting to the information age. So it kind of talks about like the year 2000 and essentially the internet. And now obviously we're in the information age in terms of information overload. We touched on it earlier. And it's how to position yourself to be able to function as a sovereign individual and kind of disassociate yourself from a nation state.
Yeah.
So I think like, man, it's been a super interesting read to see, like, obviously it's pro crypto, and it kind of talks about like how you going forward, you know, assets will be owned by the state instead of you individually, and how that's, you know, the direction we're going. And I think like in terms of macro, and obviously the book was written like a long time ago. In terms of macro, like there's some interesting things that they've called out. Like it talks about a pandemic coming and switching the way we live and think about things, which is insane. Yeah,
like
as I was reading it,
bro.
it is. So as I'm reading it, and I started it a long time ago, and then kind of got back into it. And yeah, man, I definitely would recommend it for anyone who's kind of wants to, you know, broaden the perspective on, you know, what role nations play in society, and just how to, you know, adapt and be an individual. And, you know, I really, I would recommend it.
I got to put that on the list. I mentioned it before.
I think what we got to do, and I think it'd be interesting, is like, you know, maybe it's every month, but like, or every couple months, but we pick like, I'll read The Untethered Soul.
Yeah.
And we just do a book swap or something. And you read The Sovereign Individual, and we'll come back, and in a month from now, we'll be like, hey, what'd you think? And we can just touch on like our learnings and talk about that. Because again, like the books and the amount of value that I've gained from reading alone has been significant and helped me along my journey.
I like that book swap. Should we like hold it up like the jerseys?
No, legit. I think like a jersey swap. Like
jersey swap.
And we should do jersey swaps as well. But I think we do a book swap.
All right. I'm gonna actually, you give me the next topic. What do you think?
Yeah. So, I mean,
because I think we might be running short on time, or
yeah. I think we should probably wrap in 5 at it.
Okay.
I got to call in. I had to call at 5. I mean, let's touch on a couple more things. What a social piece of content. What?
Yeah. So social piece of content. So I would just say this. I got into TikTok like fairly recently.
I swear, bro, did I not put you on TikTok? Like we would be in meetings.
I think so.
I swear I would send you shit. Maybe. I don't want to claim it, but I feel like
one of my buddies, like,
I feel like I contributed to that.
There's definitely like, it's a new thing. And okay, I get why, like, it's like a gift and a curse. Why it's very problematic in a lot of ways, because I go down rabbit holes where I'm just like whoosh, and I come out of it. I'm like, what have I been doing for the last, however long? But there's so many interesting like things. And so I would say one that I've been watching a lot lately is this guy, I think his name is Juice, who like goes up to street vendors, and he basically like, I think it's out on the West Coast of like in California, and like he'll ask them, how much is it? And like, and they'll be like, $3 for whatever, like, and then he'll give them $1,000.
Okay.
And it's like this thing with human psychology of just seeing somebody like so stunned, and the reaction, and then the natural gratitude of just like getting like this life-changing amount of money for them. And it's amazing. I watch like 1 million of them, and there's so many of these types of things, like random things that I'm just watching. But you give me one. I know what you're gonna say.
No, I actually am gonna go a different route. I'm gonna stick on the TikTok theme. Something that I've enjoyed watching is this one guy. I think his name's like Caleb Simpson, I want to say.
Yeah.
And he like goes on the street, and he's like, hey, like, how much do you pay for rent?
Oh yeah.
And they're like, oh, he's in New York, but I've seen ones like, he's kind of started a trend where now like people are doing it all over the place, and it's like, oh, I pay, $3,200. He's like, can I see your apartment? And so I mean, I appreciate like architecture, and I appreciate like, me potentially moving soon and looking at play, and just like, man, him going to the places and them being like so welcoming and showing him everything, and just seeing like how people live potentially in New York versus like other content creators who are doing that in Dubai or LA, and it's
crazy how you learn more through things like that. There's also like there's this guy I'll give a shout out to named Ted Czar, who's actually from my hometown, who asks people, what do you do for a living?
Yeah.
And it's like,
his name's Ted Czar?
Yeah.
He's that guy, and he's like,
yeah, and he's like, what's the best part about your job? And like, there are people where you just like, I get more out of that almost than like, I would never know what somebody does, and like what the best part of their job is. I'll throw one last one. And I know we're short on time.
No, you're good.
I love the high school kids
Yeah.
asking, who's the hottest guy or who's the hottest girl. And then they go to the person, they say, this person
And what do you think of
told
Jimmy?
you. What do you think of him? I saw another clip, like this other thing that this guy's doing, or a couple of people are doing, where they're saying, rate yourself 1 to 10, and they'll be like, I think I'm an 8. And then
I see that too.
They'll show somebody else,
it.
like, what do you think that person is? And they'll be like, 5. What do you think you are? I'm a 10. And they show, bro, I don't know. It's amazing. I actually enjoy all of those different types of content.
The one other thing I've seen too, and I appreciate this, like as a young single guy, is this one guy, I forget his name. He'll like go up to girls on like a college campus or whatever, and they'll be like dialed in on the computer or listening to something, and he'll be like, oh, like, what's your favorite song? And he kind of has like the guitar behind his back. And then like
song.
he's like, oh, something by Harry Styles. And then he's just like, oh, can I play it for you? And bro, they're all like looking at him like, oh, this is gonna be shit. And then he like actually like starts jamming. And the tendency in all of them is they're on their laptop or something, and they all like kind of like close it halfway. And then like as he's singing, they're like playing with their hair, and he's like, they all shut it off, man. And I'm like, yo, this guy like is killing it. And
I tend to like, I love everybody, but I fall into that group of like the guy who's playing the guitar to girls. I'm always just like, that motherfucker.
Yeah, bro. He's making
like, get away from that girl that like I don't even know.
He's
like,
making us all look bad, man.
But
yeah, I mean, so I know that again, do we have anything else like that we want to hit, or again, I know we're short on time a little bit, but
I think, do you want to put me on to one thing?
I actually do. So I had a super interesting meeting today, and I noticed something in the meeting, and I was like, the fuck is that? And then after the meeting, I sent an email. And so there's this thing called fireflies.ai.
Okay.
And so every time you join a meeting, so like if I use this platform, and I've used it once or twice, every time I pop into like a Google Meet, this will join as well. Yeah. And so it'll be like another person in the Google Meet, obviously camera off, everything. And what it does is it records the Google meeting, and then it sends you an email with like the Spark Notes from the meeting. So bro, legit, I got sent an email and it said 56% of the conversation was positive, 14% was neutral, and whatever and I'm not going to do math right now, but was negative. It gave me the sentiment. It gave me 23 questions were asked, 10 answers were provided. This, like, on that call, there were maybe 5 of us. It said that I spent 56% of the time talking, and it showed like the breakdown, which is crazy, bro. And I was just like, again, I know we'll talk about AI next time, but just fireflies.ai was crazy. I definitely like, if you're someone who works in an environment or it takes a lot of meetings day to day, I definitely recommend that in terms of now, like, we're working on Zoom and all this stuff. Crazy, bro.
That's crazy. You? That's crazy. And my one quick thing to that is like, I don't want. You don't want to know? I can't have that. I can't have that information. I'm old school like that. That's like fair. I don't have enough time. I think the one thing I guess I would put you on to just on the spot, like you're in New York City, you gotta hit up one of the real deal like bagel spots. And
I honestly haven't had a New York bagel, man.
Get yourself an everything bagel with cream cheese, with lox. I had one today actually from Tal Bagels, which is on the east the east side. There's Murray's Bagels over here, which is like legit. Okay. I'm not like putting you onto anything new per se, but like,
I appreciate that.
You gotta have a good bagel, cream cheese, lox, or a good bacon, egg, and cheese on a bagel before you dip out back to Canada.
Yeah, that's my vibe. I definitely tomorrow morning, I'll get a video of me eating the bagel.
We do
we'll do a bagel review next. Yeah, I'm down.
All right. Well, listen, I feel like we could have gone on for like another
hour,
2 hours, bro. Yeah,
this is
crazy.
This is Joe Rogan.
You might have to like put some parameters on this.
That's what I'm saying, yo. Well, yeah, I mean, that was fucking fun.
It was fun.
Day one, we're building.